What does it reveal to you about the status of Special Counsel Jack Smith's investigation that dozens of these Mar-a-Lago staffers have now been subpoenaed?
Well, it is progressing at due course, and it is leaving no stone unturned. So one of the issues with these classified documents investigation at Mar-a-Lago was that so many people, unlike a normal residence where just a family was living there, so many people in this case potentially had access to national security protected information. And so many people would have possibly seen what happened with those documents, whether they moved locations, who had access to them, and so forth. And so it really is the obligation of the Justice Department to conduct a robust investigation in this case to find out who knew what, whether these documents were seen by people that they should not have been seen, and what the potential damage to national security is, as well as who was responsible for the mishandling of the documents.
Maggie Haberman's with us as well. Maggie, we all know you covered the former president closely for many years, but based on what you know about his actions at Mar-a-Lago, how much information would resort staff members like restaurant servers, housekeepers, others potentially have?
I think Carrie's right. It speaks to the nature of having, as John Bolton put it to my colleague once upon a time, the first president living in a hotel. So, I mean, I think Trump does a lot of things sitting on the patio of Mar-a-Lago. He has things brought to him in his office, which is well far away from other aspects, parts of the club. We know that, there was one close aide to him who was working with another aide to move boxes, and that's what was caught on security cameras. So I actually think it's not surprising that they have cast this wide a net. As I understand it, the majority of folks have already testified. I'm not sure that there are many more folks to come in, but I think that they are looking at any possible scrap of information because it is so hard to build a 360-degree view of Trump at Mar-a-Lago.
And Gloria Borger, do you think the special counsel, Jack Smith, is sending a message here about the lengths he's willing to go to investigate?
Well, first of all, he's doing his job. And as my colleagues have said, he's casting a wide net, but he's also, to use another cliche, tightening the screws here. Anybody who's in the Trump orbit knows that this is a man who also is saying to a Trump attorney, you cannot claim attorney-client privilege. And that is something he is asking a judge to say, overrule this. We've got to talk to Evan Corcoran, this attorney. So he is pursuing Donald Trump with a lot of vigor here, and I think they're well aware of it in Trump world.
Yeah, I suspect you're right. Maggie, let me turn to another development right now out of the Manhattan District Attorney's Office. Donald Trump's former personal attorney, Michael Cohen, spoke to Don Lemon on CNN this morning following his appearances before the grand jury in New York. Listen to this exchange.
Do you believe that an indictment is imminent?
I do.
Okay. And when do you think it could happen? Sooner rather than later?
Let's all hope it's sooner rather than later, because everyone needs to be held accountable. Yeah. Everyone needs to be held to the same standard of the law, and that includes former presidents.
So based on your reporting, Maggie, how is the Trump team preparing for a potential indictment in Manhattan?
So it's interesting. Well, what Michael Cohen was saying actually speaks to the heart of what I think you're going to hear Trump and his allies, or at least maybe not Trump specifically, but his allies and some of his closest folks say, which is that this is they've been saying it's a quote unquote weak case. They don't actually know what the evidence is. What it is a smaller ball case compared to the other investigations that Trump is facing. Michael Cohen's point is equal justice under the law, and I think you're going to hear that as pushback. What the Trump folks are preparing to do, it's not really clear how prepared they are legally for this case, and we don't yet know what the charges will be if they come. But what they are preparing for politically, it is an all-out war against the Manhattan District Attorney, Alvin Bragg. They're going to try to make it as if he is part of a broader, political conspiracy within the Democratic Party aligned with Joe Biden, and that this is all about the 2024 election. Now, it's not clear what, if any, data points they will look to or point to try to prove this conspiracy. But I think that saying this over and over again to his supporters may have an effect, and I think that they are planning on getting very aggressive, which, Wolf, as you know, is the speed Donald Trump has in almost any situation.
And it's interesting, Gloria, Trump's new attorney, the current attorney, joined CNN last night. I want you and our viewers to listen to what he said about the impact an indictment of the former president would actually have. Listen to this.
I think it will ultimately embolden his supporters and give him more strength because it will be proven to be wrongly accused.
So what do you think? Is there some truth to that argument?
I don't know that he's going to be wrongly accused, but I do think he has a point in saying it's going to embolden his supporters. I mean, look at what occurred after the classified documents were found at Mar-a-Lago. Trump raised an incredible amount of money right after that and claimed victimhood, as I'm assuming he's going to do, because that's what he's always done in the past. And as Maggie said, they're going to try and turn this and say that Alvin Bragg is a Democrat. He's a partisan Democrat. It's part of the Democratic witch hunt. And don't forget, he has already said that if he were to be indicted, he would continue to run for the presidency. So we know he'll be out there. And I think this is a refrain that is music to his supporters' ears, and I think he will try and use it to his advantage. This case is very different in kind and in severity from the documents case and from the Georgia grand jury case that they're looking at about election fraud and election fixing. So I think this will be at one level. When those other cases come down, if they do, I think it will be a different ballgame.